Welcome to What's Important to You, the podcast where we explore purpose, passion, and the moments that truly matter. I'm James Dean, and each week I sit down with inspiring guests to uncover what drives them, inspires them, and what's important to them. Today on What's Important to You, we explore the power of storytelling, courage, creativity, and why so many dreams never get shared with the world. From an unexpected journey that began with a bedtime story for her children, today's guest went on to build a publishing business, helping people turn their ideas, experiences, and expertise into books that leave a lasting impact. We talk about fear, legacy, self-belief, and the life-changing moment of finally holding your story in your own hands. Today, we find out what's important to publisher, entrepreneur, and storyteller Orla Kelly. Hi, Orla. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Good morning, James. How are you?
I'm really good. Really looking forward to chatting to you. Orla, we're going to dive straight in. The first question, which is, Orla, what's important to you?
My goodness. What's important for me is I suppose personally, what's important to me is I can look back on my life and say, yes, I lived. I really lived. I really faced my fears. I pushed past them because the graveyard is full of broken dreams and I don't want to be one of those people. I suppose professionally then as a book publisher, because I've stumbled into publishing by accident and I know we'll talk about that. It's really, I suppose I help people provide a safe space for them to not just tell their story, but then for me to share their story in a way that feels safe and supported for them. And the amount of lives that are transformed from the words written on a page that's preserved for a lifetime, I think it's very, very empowering.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I love even your first answer there to say that you lived almost, you know what I mean? To just go at it, you know, that whole thing. And that it's been said in so many different ways, but you say the graveyard is just full of so many unbroken dreams, untapped ideas, you know, just unfulfilled things. You know, that's where they'll never see, they'll never hear from what those people could have done or put into the world. And in some ways, because obviously when you talk about the publishing, the immediate thought there is like you doing the way you want to live, as you say, without facing your fears and doing it. In some ways, by the publishing, are you enabling people to do the same? And kind of,
Yeah. Do you know what? I think we never give ourselves permission to do things. Sometimes it feels like I'm in the confession box with somebody because they're almost revealing their innermost hopes and dreams that they have put on hold because there's never the right time. They're too busy when the kids are older. This is just pure folly. You know, it's ego. It's a vanity project. And to be honest, James, the biggest lesson that hit home for me was a number of years ago. I got a message from my solicitor, and it turns out there was a guy called Joe, and he was also a client of hers. He had gone into her office in person to do his last will and testament. And in there, he pulled some typed up notes of paper and said, "This is my gift to you." And he'd written some poems and he was gifting them to her. And she said, "Joe, they're beautiful. Why haven't you done anything with them?" And, you know, he was an 80 years old and he went, "Oh, sure, look, I've always wanted to. I've written so many poems, but look, it's pure folly. I mean, who am I? I have notions." And so anyway, she put him in contact with me. We worked together and all he wanted was he would love to see his work just put in a book. He could put in his pocket of his jacket as he walked around the house and to give copies out to his nephews. He never married. And, you know, we worked together. I remember publishing his book and bringing the books to his house and just seeing a lifetime of just pride in Joe come out. It was a very emotional experience, not just for him, but for me also, because he would have gone to his grave without this dream of ever holding his poetry book in his hand for the first time. And then I realized so many people leave it to be like Joe, but don't be like Joe. Joe waited till he was 80 to publish his first book. We went on to do a second book together. He's still alive. He's in a nursing home now. But you know what? I'll always remember Joe. And I don't want anyone else to feel that their dreams aren't worth pursuing, because they absolutely are. And when you look back at history, only that we have written documentation of things that have happened in history. Otherwise, how would we know what happened?
No.
So preserving the legacy of our spoken, our innermost truths, our innermost knowledge, what a valuable contribution to society.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, that's a powerful story to start us off with, isn't it? Like, because it's the age of the gentleman. Do you know what I mean? Is the first thing, and even just it's very much that sort of. Sometimes we think it's cultural. The term notions is a very Irish cultural word in the sense of like other people saying don't get too big headed, or in America be like don't get over the top or whatever it is, cocky, arrogant, all these sorts of things we tell ourselves that we should keep ourselves, as you said earlier, people think it's ego or egotistical to go after something. Who would want to read my poetry is kind of that where he was coming from there. And that thought is put into us at some point from somewhere, whether it be parents, school, wherever, society, or something, that thought of, well, I'm not good enough to do this, or who would want to read my stuff or listen to my work or whatever it is, and I'm just being whatever it is. But it's the other side of it is it's nonsense. That whole thought is absolutely, it's not true at all. And most people, what I found is people can tell the difference between someone who's really genuine and honest and true to what they do and someone who's arrogant. We can spot it.
Yes.
We have a filter for bullshit, basically,
Yeah,
don't we? You know what I mean?
we do.
Thank God that the solicitor said, no, I need you to talk to Orla here. And the fact, as you said, this is what the interesting thing, it wasn't like, oh, he wanted to be a bestseller.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like his thing is like, what a beautiful sort of thing of, I just would love to be able to hold them all in one book that I could give them all, and that they're there. But as you say, then from him, his own personal perspective, but then you think of the contribution that's made into the world, that someone that he will have never met, that he will never meet, could pick up his book and read his poetry and be immediately touched by it is quite powerful, isn't it?
It is. And actually, I just remembered then there was another story I published years ago. It was in a house being cleared out, actually, in Leitrim. And old letters were found in a drawer dating back to the 1800s. I mean, this sounds fascinating. My life is actually really interesting because I get to meet amazing people.
Yeah.
And anyway, this guy contacted me and he said, I'm after finding these old letters. And he said, it turns out there was a great, 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 great historical aunt of mine who, women obviously back then weren't supposed to be educated, but she obviously was educated, but could never publish because she was a woman. So she wrote under a pen name and put into the little newspapers and stuff like that. But anyway, we decided to publish her letters and her poems and her stories, and they really were a snapshot of rural Ireland back then. And it was just amazing. We didn't always know, okay, is this fiction or is there some truth in it? But it didn't matter. It was amazing thing to capture. But even for business clients, because I work with clients from all walks of life and background, but even business clients, there's this terror and vulnerability because they're excellent at what they do, but put it into book. Oh my gosh, what if it's hard? What if people hate it? Can I face negative reviews? Can I face criticism? What if it doesn't work out? And all these things hold people in a vice that it's only when you work with someone that you can be open and honest and feel supported. Because I know when I published my children's books years ago, I come from a totally different background. I'm a scientist by background.
Right.
And it's only when I was a stay-at-home mother when my kids were small and stumbled into publishing totally by accident because my son started to write a little story and it was time for bed. He said, Mom, I said, up to bed. He said, Mum, if I go to bed, will you finish the story for me? And of course, as any frazzled parent will know, you make any promise just to get your child to bed. And I found myself having to say, of course I will just go to bed. And then suddenly I sat down, I saw this pencil and paper and the markings of a beautiful story about a little butterfly who wanted to fly to the rainbow to change the colour of its wings because it didn't like it. And it was crying on the branch of a tree. And a little owl came over and asked it what was wrong. And suddenly in that little story, I saw self-esteem, I saw self-respect, I saw vulnerability, I saw innocence, I saw child's imagination. And I said to myself, me as a cynical adult, how can I step into this amazing world? But then I said, why can't the world be like this? So I started to inject little life lessons that they won't listen to, my kids wouldn't listen to as mom. But if I injected it through storytelling, that it would become memorable and it would sink in. And so every night I would write a little bit more for them and read it to them, till one evening my daughter, who was 7 at the time, said, Mom, will you print it out for us? And out of nowhere, another commitment. I'll do one better. I'm going to teach myself how to publish it. And she squealed with delight, jumped up and down in the bed. Suddenly I realized, oh my gosh, what am I after committing to now? So my publishing journey was not strategic. It was not planned out, purely accidental. And here I am.
Hi, James here. If you've been watching and thinking, I would like to make a change, but not sure where to start, that's where I can help. My 12-week coaching program will enable you to reconnect with what matters most and move forward with clarity and confidence. If that sounds like you, head over to jamesdeancoach.com. Now let's get back to the episode.
12 years later, still doing it, loving it.
I love that. It's how you were just reminded me there is like one of the last people I just spoke to on the show. The episode isn't out as yet. Was a lady in Australia who she teaches storytelling now for like in business and things like that, how storytelling can be impactful, and exactly what you just said. So you were like, because it's the whole thing of I'm not a parent, but it's I've got lots of nieces and a nephew, and obviously been around obviously other people with kids and that a lot of obviously my life, and telling children to do something, is obviously the hardest thing in the world, because obviously they're obviously their own free mind and free will and all that sort of stuff. And but as you say, that but trying to the one side of it of education in a sense, but the things you were trying to maybe help instill in your children with storytelling versus, because you can't just say, oh, you need self-esteem. It go over an adult's head, let alone a child's head. Do you know what I mean? You can't just tell someone you need self-esteem and they go, oh, thank you, I'll take that. It has to come through story. So it's interesting that your sort of genesis into moving into this world was in some way, how do I help my children in some ways, and then help yourself with your children, and then as you say, the commitment to a child saying, oh, I'll do that. You're like, Jesus, they're going to remember this.
Absolutely, they will. But anyone who knows kids will know they'll never keep anything quiet. So I only ever published them for my kids. That was their book, my gift to them. But of course, kids tell their friends, oh, my mom has published her book. And then they tell their parents. Suddenly the parents were approaching me on the street and I was mortified.
Yeah.
I felt so vulnerable. I felt so insecure. I felt icky. Oh my gosh, they're going to think, do I think I'm the next J.K. Rowling? Have I notions?
Yeah.
And I just felt really uncomfortable. But of course, then kids, they were at school, brought it into the school, and I suddenly got called into the school to come down and tell my story, bring a book. So I was expecting to go into my son Michael and my daughter Emer's classes, the 2 classes in the school.
Yeah.
Not a chance. The school had congregated the entire school in the hall. Every teacher talk about eyeballs on me and a captive audience. I was so terrified. I remember I said to myself, how am I going to balance myself on the stool on the stage and read my story with a microphone? And they made me read the whole children's book, So I still remember to this day, and it's like they're 18 and 21 now, so this is time has passed, but I still remember. And I just remember just the applause and the captivation. And I suddenly realized, wow, this is the power of storytelling. Because it changes lives. It absolutely does. Every book, it's the cheapest form of entertainment, therapy, knowledge, expertise, amusement. You know yourself, you probably have a favorite book, or a book that one thing stuck out with you, or one idea caused you to look at things differently, maybe solve a problem. Far cheaper than even hiring somebody to solve that problem for you. Books, every single book, we can all take something from it. And that's why I always think books are the most underestimated, valuable item I nearly think out there, to be honest with you. And each page is a touch point for the reader to connect with the author. every single one.
Yeah,
So we make ourselves more memorable through our books as well.
absolutely. That's even just an add-on in the sense of like to the start of it is an incredible, as you say, just a way of it just building through just organically is that word in the sense of it was the thing of like, oh, I'll just have it. So it's my children have it. But as you say, children share and talk and they don't see that sort of, they don't, wouldn't see it as a, why wouldn't I not tell my friends that
Yes.
my mum made me and my man made me a book? You know what I mean? It's such an obvious thing that you tell your friends. You'd be so happy, wouldn't you, that you tell all your friends? So that sort of then the escalation of that, I suppose, telling to then you're then up in the school. The fact as well that you said that you didn't come from that background whatsoever, and your training and your employment was, you said, a scientist. You said,
Yeah, I met my husband up in County Leitrim. I was sent up there to solve their air mission problems, and I actually found myself, even when I was up, so I used to do air pollution monitoring. So I'd be up in the chimney
right,
stack 100 feet off the ground, overlooking beautiful lakes in Leitrim. And I would just sit there and write poetry when I wasn't working because it was too long down to
yeah,
go
yeah,
between different monitoring events, and yeah, and I suppose I've always written little stories and stuff, and I've always had an active imagination, and I've
mm,
never been afraid to go where my imagination takes me, because I think sometimes the limits we put on ourselves, but our imagination is the most powerful thing that we actually have. So my background's totally different, and I always feel if I can do it, anybody can do it. And
sure,
also, I think the fact I don't come from that background gives me maybe a freshness that I don't have notions, because I
mm,
come from the school of hard knocks and life.
sure,
The school of life has taught me.
yeah. So bringing it back to sort of like so you do you read the story in the school. So where did it go then from, okay, I've just read the story out that you wrote for your children, to, okay, so other people want this book now. Where was the
Yeah.
next step to the publishing it for other
Do you know
people?
what? People love a feel good story.
Yeah.
People thought the story was really endearing. And I remember I was out one day and I just spoke to somebody, and she said to me, I write a column for the Examiner newspaper every Wednesday on women in business, and it's called Women on Wednesday was the column. And she said, I'd love to, have you on about what you do, because your story
Yeah.
is so inspirational. I mean, you created almost this, like, teaching yourself how to design and publish your own children's book is
Mm,
fantastic. So anyway, the newspaper picked it up. They sent out an interviewer, and they sent out a journalist and a photographer, interviewed me and the kids, took photographs. I got a full page in the newspaper, full page coverage, how my children inspired me to write books. And I was as I said, I wasn't working. I was at a networking event, and 'cause my son was sick when he was young, so I gave up work to take care of him.
mm,
And I was at a networking event, and I just felt such a duck out of water, because I thought, these are all these suited and booted ladies, highly polished, working in business. Who was I? And I was standing
mm,
there feeling really insecure. And just to make conversation, I told them what I did. And the person standing next to me was a PR specialist. And she said to me, there's an entrepreneur program closing next day. Get your application in. They will help you convert your idea into a viable business. I just talk about chance. Went home that night, Googled it, got my application in at 9 o'clock, just before closing. And long story short, 6 months later, I got awarded a place on the entrepreneur program, and Orla Kelly Publishing was born.
wow.
Totally by accident. I
Yeah.
never thought of doing this for anybody
Yeah.
else. But obviously
Sure.
I had developed a skill. And to be honest, I'm still developing that skill 5
Yeah.
years later.
Yeah. But isn't it, it's interesting as well though, because the fact that you said in that networking event, almost to make conversation, because you're like, oh, I can't just stand in the silence anymore. So I have to tell them something. And, the fact of the willingness almost even to sort of, to share something. It's that thing of, you never know who's in the room, who's listening. And then it's like the connection and I love the sort of sliding doors moments that we all have that we don't even realize that we're actually in front of, it's quite incredible.
But
So
yes,
I
I
love it.
know if I didn't take action then,
Yeah.
I would never
Yes.
have done anything about it. I would have just said,
100%.
oh, grand, and gone home and just done nothing.
Yeah.
I Curiosity, and also I do believe in chance. And then I went, how strange that this person just happened to be next to me. It was a
Yes.
busy networking event.
Yeah.
And yet I took
Amazing.
action. So
Yeah.
it's not just, it's almost like inspired thought plus action equals
Yes.
results.
100%. Absolutely. You get, so Orla sort of Kelly Publishing becomes a thing about 6 months later. So was it initially because of the children's book was the sort of start of it? Is that where you focused on? Was there a sort of, what was the initial, when you established it as a publishing, was there an idea of type of books you want to continue to publish, or did you just take it as it came?
Do you know what? Because I had no plan. I mean, I suppose I
Mm,
opened the doors, but it's quite, when it's at that messy stage where it's going from being an idea to a thought to a hobby, to converting
mm,
something from a hobby into a business. There's that messy middle where you're feeling your way around and you're delighted then when you suddenly get clients and, but then you realize, oh gosh, there's a different expectation here, So I suppose I was flying by the seat of my pants for a little bit, to be
yeah.
honest with you, at the beginning. And I took every job that came my way. I was just so grateful. I was like a grateful puppy. I just was so delighted,
Yeah.
you know? And I remember just getting paid. And I was like, oh my gosh, I can actually make some money doing this. This is
Yeah.
brilliant. And it was just so nice. So really, I suppose since then, it was a mixture of fiction and children's books really back then,
Yeah.
and poetry. And really, I suppose since then, I've probably published about maybe 280 books in 30 different book categories for clients all around the world. So it's not just in Ireland. I love flying the flag for Ireland. And I
Yeah.
love seeing clients internationally knowing that they have an Orla Kelly published book. Because to me, it's like a little stamp of Ireland traveling around the world. And I just think it's cool.
Yeah, it is. I mean, that is incredible. I didn't say that. It's almost, again, because you're saying it earlier, and it's the fact that you didn't come from that background. You came in there almost, you know, blissful ignorance and naivety. So it's kind of like,
And
well, I'll just,
yeah,
yeah, exactly. So I'll just kind of go with it. So, tell me, because from my sort of perspective of ignorance of that world of publishing, what is then sort of like the process? Is it then people just approach you with an idea, or is it a final manuscript? What's the sort of, where's your part in, I suppose, in the
yeah.
process?
Do you know what? More and more people are coming now with either an idea and want to have a conversation, or they have half written for years and they're
Mm,
almost coming apologetic. I'm so sorry. This has been on my laptop
mm,
for years. I've never done anything with it. And there's no need to apologize because
yeah,
look at Joe. I mean, Joe's a prime example.
yeah,
He waited like he was 80, you know? And so really often I'm the first person that people trust me to have the conversation
mm,
and to even show me their work. And I always ask them, okay, why did you write this? You know, who needs to read it and why? And what do you want somebody to take away from your book after reading? And often when people start really thinking, then it helps them not just in finishing the book, but also in realizing, I don't think my book is very clear on who it's for because they're just words on a page. And we can all put words on a page. In fact, AI can do words on a page for us
yeah,
brilliantly. But it's all about looking at it in terms of, well, what are your goals? Is this just a personal project for you? Is this a legacy book that you're looking back on your life well spent, or maybe not well spent, and want somebody to learn from it? And really, it's down to the personality and the goals for the person. Or if it's a business client, well, I just want to raise my visibility and my profile, or I want to become a speaker. And so many speakers are on the stage now, are published authors. And this is what I want, So again, then we look at, well, what's the message? Who's the market? We know what do you want for your business out of this? Do you want to bring people in to work one-to-one? Do you want to just have, high financial value corporate clients? The goal really influences how we work together and influences how I engage with our content. So really, I suppose I've like a 7-step process I take all my clients through, but more so nonfiction. Like we look at the strategy
mm,
and the structure of the
yeah,
book,
yeah,
layout, the design, all of those
gotcha,
different aspects. So everything fits in, but like without a strategy, it's just words on
yeah,
a page. So really, I ask them often the questions they haven't thought about, and I'm there almost as their trusted partner who has their back, who has their best interest, but also to stop them from sabotaging themselves, but also to ensure that their content is not libelous and it's not going to make them or the world a worse place by putting their book out there. Because I have to put my head on my pillow and sleep at night knowing I have left no harm.
Yeah, I was going to ask that now, after being in business for 12 years versus at the start where you were saying happy to have the clients, have you sort of moved with your own in sense of there's certain works that you don't publish, or certain works that you know, because that's one of the biggest things when you're later on in a business, is be able to say no, isn't it, as well?
Yeah. Unfortunately, I do see there's two types of ones. First of all, there could be somebody maybe who maybe have, a quite awful history and they want to share their story. But I always have to ask the question, how does your family feel about this? Like if they've got kids and stuff, oh, well, my son would have an issue with it because I was sleeping on a park bench in my community. And I think, well, would you like him to be reading this book? How would you feel people would be commenting to him? Oh, yeah, I think this could push him over the edge. I do walk away from book because I have to think of the bigger picture here.
Yeah.
And I can't just work with somebody and just hope for the best that things will be okay.
Yeah.
And then if something ended up happening and that son ended up, being ridiculed by his peers, or maybe that the mother just wanted her story out there but did nothing with the book, but yet all their intimate secrets are out there and he can't live that down. And I have to think about this because I have to think about society as a whole. Other books, unfortunately, James, I'm seeing coming my way are what I call hate books.
Right.
Yeah, religious discrimination, persecution, judgment.
Mm.
And I won't touch those, whereby they are going to leave a big mark on society. There's nothing positive in those. And unfortunately, sometimes they can be based around religious views and opinions.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where I feel that they're very polarized and definitely on hate. And it's not just that I'm a woke publisher, not. But I do feel that that this is very damaging overall.
Sure.
There is no high moral ground here. And whatever people's personal opinions may be, this is not a book I will take on. So,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I have to stand by my own,
Yeah. I think the way you're describing that, it comes down to sort of your own sort of values, isn't it? Your own. Yeah, absolutely. Because it's interesting. And I'm glad you brought it up, because there's, say, like with me doing the show, and the question I ask is, what's important to you? But I have a sort of, very much in a sense, at the start of it, I was like, anyone who come on the show, I'll just, any guest, come on, just because you're just wanting so far into it now, and a couple of years down the line, I'm the same now when people are coming to me. So it's kind of like there's a two-way thing, and it's that thing of like, no, actually, that person isn't the right person for the show. The same way that you're not going to necessarily publish that someone's book, and as you say, it's not because you're thinking you're better or their words. It's like, because it's like, you say it's your name on the book, and you say you want to have that stamp of the book going around wherever it is, and people say, oh, geez, Orla Kelly Publishing. You say, so you have to be able to stand over it. And it's like, so I think it's having that integrity for yourself, isn't it? And kind of going, someone else may want to publish this, but it's not going to be me. And I think that's a really important thing that we don't know at the start. Do you know what I mean? Because you can't know it when you start something out.
No.
It's only once you start to navigate through it, and it's a hard one to say, like to say no to people.
It is, because like my business wasn't always doing well.
No, yeah.
And the way sometimes there's this flicker in your mind, oh, do you know what? This will get me out of a bind.
Yeah.
And you just say no. But you know what? The funny thing is, every time I say no to something like that, a bigger yes comes always so fast. I always think the universe is listening. There's always something better to say, almost as if it's a test. And I think, look, we all need to be tested from time to time. And I think it is important. how the decisions we make and we stand over. And it's just, and also the other ones that I don't publish as well are, like, say, for example, there could be a reformed criminal, okay?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I don't, because they may be reformed, but those they may be talking about in the books may not be reformed. And I don't want to be looking over my shoulder. I don't.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's not worth it. So, you know, I have to be very discerning in who I work for, because again, it's your reputation. Because
Sure.
if one, I suppose, bad apple comes in, it feels like it contaminates a lot. And also all
Yeah.
my reputation and all the amazing other authors I work with, I'm not going to put them into the same basket with them. So again, I have to be. And luckily I am at a stage now where I have more, I feel I have a lot more, I suppose, freedom, and
Mm.
without it compromising my business, to be able to make those
Yeah.
type of decisions.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm interested because you said it there, like, as you say, business isn't always good. There's ups and downs with it. After the fact that you say you didn't come from a place of publishing, but you didn't come from necessarily even a place of business, you in your previous sort of occupational work life. And I've had obviously a few people on the show that have either started businesses or in business. What would you say then, just from a business perspective hat on, what have you sort of like some of the biggest lessons you've learned over those 12 years?
Oh my goodness, still slipping into the hobby mindset, because when you
Mm,
love what you do, it often doesn't feel like work. But then
sure.
the problem is you can end up working longer. You can end up working harder. When you like working with clients, you keep, I suppose, servicing those clients even past when the contract is finished. And then you realize that, why did I do that? Because I can't get that time back. And absolutely everyone's thrilled. But I just realized, what is it in me that I feel I need to do that? And I really had to look at myself and saw some things that I need to work on myself from a business mindset. I'm getting better. I am actually getting better. It's still a work in progress, if I'm totally honest with you. But I do realize that if I'm to have longevity in this business, I have to see it more as a business than than a hobby, and treat it accordingly, and still give the same excellent value to my clients, but knowing when business hours are over and knowing when I
Yeah.
need to call hold. So yeah, it is. I mean, I would love to say I was more business. I suppose being a scientist, I was always technical, analytical,
Mm,
problem solving, but I was working in an environmental consultancy, so I was part of a bigger business. Now, I did work as a consultant independently for a little while till my daughter was born. And again, somebody might say, well, why didn't you ever go back to your science role? When I was ready to go back, to be honest with you, the whole economy had changed here in Ireland,
yeah.
that I was going to have to move abroad to get work.
Right.
I couldn't do that with two young children. So I had to reinvent myself.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
reinvent myself, I 100% did, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. It's, yeah. The one of the questions I'd love to ask, because again, from the starting the business, and is one that, because it's one that I sort of struggled with and sometimes do struggle with, when you've come from a sort of an employee background, if you put it that way, and you're trying to move into a business or self-business entrepreneur background, and the sort of money mindset, in sense of like that, you're asking people to pay you directly versus it coming through just through payroll type
Yeah.
thing. Was that a struggle? Literally charging people for your services.
It was, absolutely. And I suppose, and it was a bit of a double-edged sword, because people say, oh, well, if you're so passionate about what you do, why are you charging for it? Stuff
Yeah.
like that. But I still have
Yeah.
the same professional indemnity insurance. I still have to pay for my broadband, my
Yeah.
printers, my subscriptions, my continuous professional development, my own, working and training and upskilling, and all the time I've invested. Really, it is a big mindset adjustment, more than anything. So billing, and also chasing billing, and then saying, oh, why did I let that go on so long? And am I ever going to get paid? And then you feel like you're begging for money, and that's hard. that has been hard, so thankfully now I don't have that issue. But back then, I do remember I would be giving out to myself saying, how did I get myself into this situation? So yeah, that is definitely a tricky one, because as you say, suddenly when you're working for yourself, you have to be master of everything. You're your
Yeah.
publisher. And at the time I was doing all the book designs and everything myself,
Mm.
and helping with the marketing and the publicity and everything, as well as trying to invoice and follow up with clients. So whereas now I'm definitely taking more of a step back and trying to do less, but do more strict strategy, forward planning, also protecting my clients' intellectual property and, helping them, because in a world of AI,
Yeah.
helping them stand out more now is, always going to be something that I need to be a step ahead on the whole time.
Yeah, yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, and I think it is for anyone going into that space of any sort of business is a big shift with it when it comes to the money and that. But it's the point that you said though there. It's like not just in the sense of you have to be able to live and pay for your bills and all that sort of stuff. But as you say, it's when people say like, but you're so passionate about it, why wouldn't you do it for free? It's like, well, I still have to live, and I'm still paying out to
Yeah.
all the things that I'm using, the services that I'm using to produce this book at the end. They're not free, you know what I mean? So it's like all the extra work and the stuff that you try and do. So it is for people who are thinking to go into this space. It is one of the biggest shifts you kind of have to get your head around. But then once you do it, you kind of realize it's. Again, it goes back to those sorts the words we said earlier, the notions, the sort of who am I to what have you know what I mean? And dealing with those challenges you may face, but it's a big shift once you do make it, things can move forward quite quickly. Then the final piece, I'm so interested in the process. So how is it actually then for you as a sort of independent publisher? How is the book actually published? How does it become a physical book?
Yeah. So, okay. So say, for example, a manuscript comes into me, okay, and we're now working together. And so what I do, the first thing I do is they send me their manuscript, but I do what's called an onboarding setting up for success, little
Mm,
mini program with my clients.
yeah.
So I've 3 little training videos they have to watch, okay? They're only about 3 or 4 minutes each, and they need to answer some questions. Now they can voice note me the answers, or I always think writing them out is good, because because sometimes it's first thing that comes out of our mouth isn't the real answer. So I
Yep.
ask them to put the time in, send me back the answers. I read their answers, I look at the manuscripts, then we have an onboarding call. I ask them any questions where I feel there's gaps. I record it, and then I would then take their manuscript and say, okay, based on our onboarding call, based on their answers, this is who they are, what they're about, what they want to achieve, who they'd love to work with, what goals they would like the book to achieve, and what transformation they would like the reader to have,
Mm,
and what they want the reader to do as a next step. And I wear 3 hats. So I wear the publisher's hat, which is always looking at, okay, what's the best way to tackle this? So this book is not just another book that's out there on
mm,
another topic on leadership,
mm,
or another topic on marketing or management or whatever. How can we make this book really there for longevity, that's litmus tested, that really, I suppose, builds the know, like, and trust with the reader,
mm.
and is a win for the client and the reader. So I'm looking at publisher's hats where I'm really putting it through all the scrutiny. I'm wearing my client's hat where I'm saying, I'm working with this person. This person has trusted me. I'm in a very privileged position. I need to do my very best for this person based on who they are as a person, what their values are, how they work, etc., etc. And also I do the other part, which a lot of publishers don't do, is the reader, because
Mm.
this has to be impactful for the reader as well. Otherwise, I'm doing a disservice to the client and I'm doing a disservice to the reader. So really, I do radio silence and I really immerse myself in, and anything that I'm reading in the book and I'm getting distracted, I'm losing concentration, or I'm feeling it's not clear, or they're missing a trick here, I make note of. And then we go back and we plug those gaps. So we make it a high value strategic asset book if it's more of a non-fiction
Mm.
book.
Yeah.
And then I work with them on their cover design, and looking at blue sky thinking and not just blue sky thinking, but looking at, well, based on the type of book, this is what's currently selling really well
Yeah.
right now. These are the key components you need to look at. We look at your branding, we look at your logo, we look at everything, the title, the subtitle. Because I have some marketing skills as well, I know what's appealing and what's being found and searched for in terms of titles, subtitles.
Yeah.
So all that goes in, and I've copywriting skills then for the back cover text. So as soon as then then we look at the layout and the design of the book to make it a beautiful experiential book. If there's a lot of content there, we look at breaking it up. Do we need to do different types of style? Do we need to put in maybe thought bubbles or little doodles and sketches or graphs or something? If there's links to resources, can we put them in? So, because yourself, we all have books on our shelves that amazing authors, but we've never maybe finished them through whatever reason. But if they leave all of their sign up for bonus items at the very end, we've missed a trick. So we need to inject them into relevant parts of the book. So even if somebody only got to chapter 5 of their book, they're already on their mailing list, they're already on their radar. So particularly books selling internationally, like in Amazon, you've no access to sales data yourself. You can only hope your book has inspired somebody. But if you actually create relevant bonus resources relevant to the teachings of the book, which I work with for my clients, building bonus workbooks, key takeaways, action items, bonus videos, stuff like that, nobody is going to want to turn that down. Whereas if you just give a bonus resource, that's something you have off the shelf. If it's not relevant to the book, they're going to go, nah, don't need it. Whereas if they know that these are exclusive resources linked exclusively to the book to reinforce the teachings of the book, they're going to want it.
Yes.
Because, so again, it's important we do that. And I know one of my clients actually came back to me after several months and said, one of my bonus resources that you created for me, Orla, she said, has now landed me as a guest lecturer on an international business training school. And it was a paid position.
Wow.
And they had downloaded her resources and found it such a benefit that they actually had her now, and she's on their training faculty now. And I've seen it on her LinkedIn that she's been added to their training faculty.
Yeah.
And I
Roster or
think that's
whatever.
one
Yeah.
of the doors that's actually open for people, because sometimes it's what makes it different than just, sign up for my newsletter or reach out to me if you want to call. So again, I always work on creating strategic marketing assets to support all the teachings of the book. So really that is, and I suppose when my clients get the bound proof copy of their book, they can go through it, make sure they're happy with it. Again, because nobody knows about their book yet except them.
Yes.
And then also if they want to talk about their book, they have a book to hold in their hand and say, this is coming out now, here's a pre-order link. And I set that book up with pre-order. So then they know how sales are actually going for their books as well. And then their book is there for all time, whether they want it as a paperback, hardback, ebook or audio.
Yes.
I do all 4 versions of books for clients as well.
Wow.
So again, because yourself, different people like podcasts, people like listening. They're on the move. People want to get away from screens. So again, knowing that your book is there as an audiobook, is fabulous. Or you're going on holidays and you download the ebook version of it because you don't want to go carrying the physical copy. And then you're through the clickable links, you're signing up for other resources and you're on their radar, and people then build their businesses that way. Then you can create email marketing to your readers. So that's what all I do for my clients too.
And then is it done by then, so say someone wants to say a physical book, is it kind of printed per purchase, or is there a certain amount of books that are printed? Do you know what I mean? So I don't know the sort of how it's done now. Is it like, so if someone goes on, I want to buy a book, or is it you order so many printed to be put in shops? How does that sort of part of it work?
There's a number of different ways. I always think don't put all your eggs in one basket. So say, for example, your book is up on Amazon as a print book, okay?
Yeah.
Your account is set up in your name. So somebody buys your book. You will get a notification in your dashboard that a sale has been generated. So Amazon will then send that order to their printer. They will actually bind your book and put it in the Amazon envelope and post it out to somebody. and that sale will
Yes.
show up in your account.
Yes.
So you don't have to store any stock of books.
Yeah.
Now, for those who want to have a very hands-off business, that's perfect. Particularly if you're non-fiction and if you're looking for more book to grow your business, maybe to hand out copies of your book to a prospect you would love to work with, a business, or even gift a copy of your book to a business you'd love to work with. I always recommend getting better print quality. Go to a printer, get those books printed. So again, I link in with different printers to actually set up the print runs, and then the books get delivered to my authors, and they are like the books you would see in Eason's Waterstones.
Yes.
They have a more robust cover.
Yeah.
They look the part. Okay. And then, yes, you can either sell those books, give them away to strategic people, or get them into shops.
Gotcha. Love it. But for what you just described, because obviously you very much when we're thinking from a non-fiction perspective and a sort of the book being a part of someone's business strategy. What I find really interesting there from the way you're talking about it and how you help the people you're working with is it's more than just publishing the book. You know what I mean? Like, because in some way, I don't mean this to belittle what you do, but in theory, someone could just publish a book. And just the way you see the manuscript, you go, yeah, that reads fine, and here's how you publish it. But as you say, just you going that bit further with the person you're working with and going, okay, this is, if we think of the timeline or we think of where this book fits into your business, as you say, your strategy or your client journey, all those sorts of different things we use. It's like, it's one element. It's a really big element. It's an important element, but it shouldn't be standalone, if that makes sense. The way that sounds like you're working with people, it's like, especially it's like to go from, and I suppose it's helping someone to go thinking slightly differently of, it's a big thing to be able to publish a book, but it's like, okay, yeah, but how can we use this more so than quote unquote, just a book? It's another sort of piece. And as you say, and even just you said there, like, let's not just leave all our sort of how we reach our customers to the end of the book. We'll put it in on, at the end of chapter 2 or something, there's going to be a page that's just about, did you know you can find whatever these resources? It's just that extra level of thinking that I'm sure, and I'd love to, because I want to know what people's reactions, when you're talking through that sort of strategy with someone and they hadn't thought of that sort of part of it, what's their sort of reaction when you're kind of taking them through that?
They're delighted because, they just see the manuscript as being the end goal,
Yes.
And I suppose the earlier somebody engages with me, the more value they'll get from the work relationship going forwards. Because often, every manuscript can be fixed, but you have to be open to change as well, I mean, I've had some people come to me and they say, my book is on Amazon, it's not selling. And I might even go to their Amazon page and I'll immediately see false, okay? Or I'll see they have no profile created, so they're anonymous. And also just their book description is as boring as anything. It's not inspiring. I might download the free sample and find it riddled with mistakes. Quality issues have been reported by other readers when I look at the reviews. And also from the free sample, there's nothing there that tells me anything about the book or if it's even worth being read. So again, I always think, if somebody downloads your free sample of your book, you really need to hit them between the eyeballs. They're going to want to be disappointed when the free sample's over and go, oh, I need
The
this
rest
book.
of it.
Also, table of contents. Think strategically about table of contents. I know I've purchased books by scanning a table of contents and I go, ooh, that chapter looks interesting, So see all that as teaser. Again, you have to have, and that's why I think strategy, from my years of experience working with clients, learning things the hard way, but also, just learning from them and, applying constantly. I know what works and what doesn't work. Often if I go back to a person and say, well, your book these are the issues I found even on the free sample, you need to fix this before anything. And often they go away disappointed, not wanting to make any change because they just want somebody to help them, sell my
Well,
book.
yes,
And that's
I
it.
was just going to say that it's that I think there's also this thing sometimes of, again, it's maybe leaning into the ego, that wanting, I did it. You know what I mean? It was me, that they want to be the hero in the story, that it's like, I came and I published my own book and without anyone else type thing. And that sort of versus is kind of like, as you say, and it's, again, it's not to dismiss or diminish the work that they've created and the idea that they have, but there's an element of reality, and it's getting people, so you said it earlier, the openness and the willingness to go, yeah, the book or whatever, it could be good, but it could be better. And if the goal is, and again, it goes back to this, like, what's the goal? Is it just so you can say you've published a book? Is it because you want to make money? Is it because you want to get your message out there? This is really important, whatever it is. But it's also then, are you willing to listen? I was, a few years ago, after a small story now, years ago, I did, good 10 years ago, I did personal training for a while. So I trained as a personal trainer, good 10 years or so ago. And I worked in a gym for a couple of years part-time doing that. And when I was learning being taught by sort of instruction course, and the whole thing of fitness, it goes across at the board, though, is like people, they refer to them as askholes because they just keep asking the same question, wanting the answer they want. No, this is the person who's in the profession, the person who has experience goes, well, this is the way I suggest it. Oh, I don't like that answer. I'm going to go ask the next person. And they keep going, wondering why their idea isn't getting anywhere, because they're ignoring the advice of someone like yourself when it comes to publishing a book. But I helped published over 200 books that have sold in 160 countries.
Yeah.
But they go, but no, Orla's wrong. It's not me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So they're the people, unfortunately, they're not going to get their work out there because they're not willing to get the help that they need.
No, I've people come to me and say, oh, well, I was told my book is brilliant. I was told, when such person said they couldn't put down my book after reading it. And I thought, well, yeah, friends and family will say that, but like, I remember one person not too long ago said something similar to me, and I was really looking forward to reading their book. We were working together, and I was disappointed. I went, oh gosh, this is not going to be an easy conversation for me to have. But I had to, and I said, your work needs a lot of work. And they felt very, very deflated and were wondering, oh, I don't know, is it even worth pursuing? But again, I'm not going to put pressure on them to do this because they have to do the work. I can't make those changes to their book. Some things you need to change yourself. But I put them in contact with an amazing editor, and they worked, and the editor polished their teachings and their lessons in the book and the content. And now it reads really well. And their ego was dented. Their self-esteem was dented. But you know what? If I didn't have that conversation with them and just went, I'm not comfortable having this conversation, look, let's just go ahead. Well, because I knew the goals that this person wanted to achieve with their book, I thought, I'm doing them as a service. I can't do that. And I'm glad, even though I was prepared to walk away from it, but they listened, and now they're absolutely thrilled with their book.
Yeah. Absolutely. But it's even like, because I was just going to ask that. So from your perspective as well, the piece that you do, you just said that. So if there's something to do with like editing, you'll maybe link them in with someone else as well, is it?
Yeah, I have editors who work with me and designers who work with me. I suppose I'm the main point of contact for my clients. So they're not having to deal with all these outsourced people. I'm their contact.
Yeah.
And I'm the person who advises the editor. I'm the person who advises the designer, the cover designer, everything. So I am the person who will know their project inside out, upside down. So I'm the one who has their back. I'm the one who is there working with them to make it the best book possible. And everybody else is behind the scenes doing their work. But their designers are not going to sit down and read somebody's book to get an idea of what should be on the book cover.
No,
they're not.
I gotcha.
They trust me to work, and my clients trust me based on my experience to know what works. Different books require different designs, different handlings, different covers, different strategies. And they trust that that's what I'm going to inject in, more than just another publisher who's unfortunately may have sales teams behind the exploratory conversations who are trained in the art of selling just to close sales. I'm not
Yes,
like that
yes,
because
yes.
it's a strategic alliance as well. It's a partnership. And you know yourself, we've all probably worked with people in the past who have, we just don't get on. We just don't see eye to eye.
Mm,
And it's
yep.
like pushing water uphill. And, I would rather, focus my time and energy into those who we do have synergies on versus those that I'm just trying to
Yeah,
almost drag along,
yeah. But I think even just that, as you said there, the fact that you're working with those other people sort of behind the scenes, that say whether it be the designers for things like the covers or the editing part and helping people that again is a further demonstration of people trusting other people and leaning on other people to know their expertise. And I'm sure there's even from the person who wrote the book, they might have had sort of some sort of vision of the design of the cover in their head. And there's an element of like, oh, you're going to get a designer. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah, but okay, it's not to again discount what your vision was, but these are the people again. They're the ones that have got the years of experience and training, and they know and think and see it. It's that willingness and to ask for help and then be open for it and trusting those other people because again, going back to the point that you said there is like, it's to make it as the best version as possible. There's an element of you have to kind of like let go of some stuff, isn't there?
Yes.
You
You
know,
do you do have
that,
to let go of the control. But just
yeah,
like me, yeah, sure, I could decide to take up a totally new skill and teach myself how to design websites or teach myself how to build X, Y, or Z. And well, like, do I really want to do that? Is
yeah,
that where I need to spend my time and my focus, you know?
yes,
And I always think you can either trade time or you can trade money. When I first started off, I hadn't the money, but I had the time. And when my children were in bed, I would sit down and teach myself skills, like hours and hours of training and figure out how to do things. And it was hard. And it's almost like people saying, well, why should I have to pay an electrician comes to my house and they're in and out in 5 minutes and it costs me X amount. I go, yeah, but you're paying for the expertise,
mm,
to solve that
yeah,
problem.
100%. Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Everyone sees it quite in the immediacy, when it comes to that and versus everything that goes on in the background. Yeah, no, it's, because even like my very limited knowledge, obviously, before talking to you about publishing, like, and you're obviously an independent, like the amount obviously that goes on in the background. And is there, here's the question, just thinking there, is there a sort of general standardized timeline that you say, oh, when someone first comes to you, is it going to be like 3 months, 6 months? Is there or is it depending on how far they've got along
Yeah.
with the
I, I
work?
I mean, sometimes it depends on their urgency. If they have, like,
Mm,
sometimes somebody might say, I have a big event coming up in September. I really need
mm,
my book to be out by then. Or it depends what stage of their book
yeah,
they're at and how much time that they have to invest in it as well.
sure.
So again, it can be anything from 3 months to 6 months, sometimes a little bit longer,
Yeah.
totally depending. Because again, it's really important that it's not feeling rushed or they're stressed having to do stuff because that's not going to serve them well either.
Mm,
So, and I think it can come across in their writing as well. But
mm,
at the same time, a really protracted process, your writing can become jaded. You may
yeah,
end up repeating yourself and
yep,
forgetting, going off on a tangent or forgetting you already wrote that. So I always think try to keep it, build consistent habits, have the accountability, which I always give the accountability to my clients, check in. How are you getting on? Okay. Are you still okay for our scheduled calls just for, to keep them focused on sending me content, me reviewing content, getting back to them.
yeah,
So they're not going off on a tangent or, spending time second guessing themselves or filling themselves with self-doubt because they know that I have their back and I'm here for
mm,
their best interests.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, it's such an interesting to hear the other side, all the stuff that you do on the other side, like versus, because I'm sure there's like, I say that this is the, no, this is the question I wanted to ask, because I always love the sort of before and after perspective. So when you do get to that end state and the person, they've gone through the 3 or 6 months, whatever it was, working through you, and they're there actually holding the book. or they've sold a book to someone. What is the after of the person versus when you first meet them? What's that difference when you see them with it?
I think when they first come, there's like a hopeful expectation, but there's a bit of insecurity, a bit of vulnerability, a bit of, oh God, I hope this is the right thing I'm doing. And you can see the cogs going in their brain, and they're coming from a position of, I suppose, trust. And then afterwards, when they actually get, maybe the printer sends printed proof through their door, because I think, and they send a photograph of them holding their book, or they have the book down there and they have a glass of wine and the photograph, and they go, woohoo, the book is here. Oh my God. Or they might send a photograph of themselves, a selfie of holding the book. And they all say, I never expected how emotional this experience was going to be. Just physically holding my book, because I can send them different sample cover designs and layouts in the cover. And it's gorgeous to see, oh my gosh, there's my name on the book cover, but it's on a screen. You can't touch it. You know, it may visually look amazing, but it's only when you're opening that wrapper for the first time, it's like a big reveal, and it's like going, oh wow. Like, I mean, I remember somebody recently said, oh my God, my book is meaty. There's a lot in it. Like, it's wow. You know, when you're holding it and they're looking through it, and it looks beautiful, because I've gone through it so meticulously that there's no mistakes. The layout looks perfect. Nothing has moved. Even with some of the most amazing best-selling authors out there, they can have mistakes. They can have typos. They can have stuff gone horribly wrong in their book. I remember I was at an event recently, and I was wondering why the person was giving out book copies of the book, and I realized that thousands of copies that got printed had cut off after chapter 19, and there was no chapters 22 with his call to actions. The printer, just for whatever reason, an anomaly, every single copy gone out.
Jesus.
No wonder he was giving them all away for free.
Yeah.
And one other best-selling author, it turns out that the resource link for all of her books, she's a business author, the business link was wrong. So no one could get her resources. So all her thousands of book sales, and she'd no way of building connection with those readers because the link was wrong. No one tested the link. That's bad. That's
heartbreaking, that stuff, isn't it? That's heartbreaking.
So again, these are the lessons I don't want my clients to learn. So I make sure they're taken care of.
Yeah, no, it was just because I was thinking as well, and this is, a bit more personal, but it's like, I say there's many people as well that come to you. I wonder, and I'm projecting now, definitely, but they're even the concept of them publishing a book. Because again, the sort of self-doubt and stuff, and sense of like, they think of like, I'm not a writer, I'm not an author, they've maybe I think so many people struggled at school, all these sorts of sort of things that we have in our heads. So I'm sure there's some people that come to you like, I've always wanted to write. But there's people like yourself who are like, well, Jesus, you never thought you were going to be a publisher, let alone, you know what I mean? So I'm sure there's people as well, when they see it, it is quite emotional, because they'd be like, God, I've actually done this. And it's interesting when, in a sense of ownership of that, because again, that same lady that I was telling you about the storytelling earlier on, and I think she was about to publish her 8th book on her sort of field, but she still was almost just about now saying that I'm an author. It's interesting, the labels that we either give or don't give ourselves. So do we, that sort of ownership of the fact that you could have those Orla Kelly Publishing. Do you know what I mean? It's like, it's a really sort of like, we were talking about the mindset shifts we have to go through when we're talking about business and money. It's almost like, someone had to say, no, I'm actually an author. It's probably quite a sort of moment for people.
It is, I'm a published author, and it's almost like they're trying it out. How does it sound, and they're trying to get comfortable with it, It is definitely a thing. And, and I think, it's a label, but you know what? There's a lot of hard work goes in for the author into getting their book right. So they deserve to have that title, like, completely.
100. Yeah. And that's that point. And that sometimes it's like, you need to completely own that.
Yes.
And really lean into it. You know what I mean? And I think it's so it's like, because it's the fact that some people, we'll so easily dismiss those things. Do you know what I mean? And again, the sort of notions thing that push it away. It's like, no, it's like, it's a, it's a really big thing. So, but again, it sounds like for what you do with the people you work with, is say it's definitely say more of a relationship piece that you're trying to work with them than versus give me an unorganized printer for you. Do you know what I mean? It's there's a much more to it, which it sounds such a fascinating journey that you go on with the person you work with as well.
I do. They see me as a trusted ally now as well, because they know I'll always give them the honest answer. And because we've worked
Yeah.
together, you do build up a good relationship with the person. You can also advise them then on, what to do. And it's brilliant because unfortunately I have lots of conversations with people who talk about doing it and they never do.
Never do it. Yeah,
And I remember there was one lady and I said it to her and I said, if I was to randomly pick up the phone to you in 6 months' time and say, for example, her name's Mary. Hi, Mary. Just wondering, how's your book? When did you get it published? And she goes, oh, no, don't tell me that. Don't tell me that. I don't want to have that conversation. And I go, yeah, but what's the likelihood of that happening? Because based on us having conversation here today, you've told me what you want to achieve. You told me your goals. You told me this is something you definitely want to do, but what's actually stopping you? Because I do find people might say, oh, it's money or it's time, but there's workarounds for absolutely every single thing that you do. If you want something, you will find a way to do it.
Yep.
Nothing will stop you. So if the desire is there, you will find a way to accomplish anything you want to achieve.
Yeah, so much in it. And I see now, as I can see how much you love it
I
from
do
talking
love
to
it,
me.
yes.
You do. I can see how much you love it. And yeah, no, I can see how much. Before I go into my final questions, this one I just wanted to, this is like asking me to pick your favorite child, but are there any sort of books over the years you kind of think that really stick out for yourself and go, oh no, that one really had a real impact?
Yeah, actually it does. And it was it's a work of fiction.
Okay.
Irish author, Danny Dunn. He's living in Mullingar.
Oh yeah, that's where I am.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah.
Oh, he's fantastic. Well, he's 2 books. No, he wrote other books as well, but he wrote his last 2 books with me. The Spindle Tree and The Road to Bethany. You see, I wasn't even prepared for this question. He's like a big Santa. You'll see him if you see him around.
Yeah.
An amazing guy, an amazing school teacher. What a beautiful writer. His books are big
Yeah,
books.
yeah.
I remember even as a publisher reading, I had the laptop out the back garden. Beautiful summer's day. I did not want to stop reading his manuscript and being gutted when I came to the end of it.
Wow.
Because I was so engrossed and absorbed in his book, The Spindle Tree, an amazing Irish story set in the 1940s, about a family of children and what happened to them. Oh my gosh, what a story. And then The Road to Bethany, again, a beautiful story, again, about a child coming from England to live with her parents or her ancestors in a farm in rural Ireland. And it's just the vividness, the imagination, the story is fantastic. So that's from your local boy, Danny Dunn. Those 2 books. Those books definitely left an impact because they to me, captured how you can lose yourself to time, get caught up in your imagination, get transported to a different place and totally captivated and feeling good and wholesome at the end of reading. You know when you've ever had this kind of like, it's almost like a comforting bowl of soup or something. And you go, I feel nourished. My soul, my body, my mind feels nourished. I feel good after reading that. I felt good after reading both of those books. And he's just one client that I think loved her. So again, that's shout out to your local guy.
Very good. That's fantastic. So good, Orla. I have a few questions that I ask everyone. So the first question I want to ask you is, and considering you're an author, this might be or a publisher to say and authors like to pick out, but are there any quotes or phrases that are important to you?
There are no real quotes or phrases that are important to me. I think the biggest thing that's important to me is that we just never give up on our dreams, you know? And like both my parents dead, and I would walk through the graveyard and I would look at the headstones and I would read. And I'm always saying, what story, what mark did that person leave on the world? And you just wonder, what did they go to the grave with? Maybe that just never got said, never got told. What stories did they never get to share? And, even now, there's stories that I can't ask my parents, and their families are maybe dead, or those who were there don't know the answers. And I just wish that maybe if we told more stories and captured those stories in a way, a richer life and world we would all be living in.
Absolutely. Who would you say have been the biggest influences in your life?
My children, definitely, because they were the catalyst to start this all off.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah, absolutely. And what I love, I've said this a few times when I ask people this question, and influence can come from anywhere, and from people in the public life or teachers or whatever, but it's so often how it is the closest people to us, family, and in some ways it's like it's a wonderful thing that it's almost, a lot of people say their parents, and it's like that sometimes it feels like it's a coming down thing, but it's obviously the fact that your children is sort of like a bringing up, and a sort of like how, that sort of, but you could see, I'd see as well, like, they obviously, this is going back to the very start of the conversation, and you obviously, the book that you sort of created for them, um, and the way that they obviously spoke about it to their friends in such a way, they must have just had such pride in you, but almost that sort of, I don't know if to say it's like a naive pride, if you know what I mean. It was just sort of almost like a giddiness that it wasn't like, oh, look at my mummy's. She was just like, oh, look at what my mum did. Do you know what I mean? It's that sort of just absolute just joyfulness. It sounds the way you described it. Oh, she just made us a book, that it's just, so you can only be inspired by that reaction. Does that make sense?
It does. And the same I always say to them now that, us as human beings can reinvent ourselves the whole time. You don't ever have to feel, oh, I don't want to be stuck in a job from 9 to 5, or I don't want to do this. You can just reinvent yourself. I mean, look at me. I never thought I would be doing this. I thought I'd be working in science for the rest of my life. Now, the skills I've learned as a scientist have always stood the test to me, because, I mean, it showed discipline, it showed perseverance, it showed wide thinking. It shows I can apply myself to lots of different, I suppose, fields of expertise. And I think I'd like to say anyone, if I can do it, anybody can.
Absolutely. And just, I think it's also that thing of, you don't have to wait to be inspired. It can just be around you. It's just the willingness to kind of take the steps forward sometimes. You say, and like you said earlier, it's just doing it, get on and do it, do the action.
Yes.
It has been a wonderful to chat to you all. It really has. I've learned so much, and I'm sure people listening have as well. One final question for you, which is, what's important for your future?
What's important for my future is that I will stay publishing books for as long as I am inspired, and for as long as there's fire in my belly and passion in my heart for doing it.
Love it. And I'm so glad, just genuinely, to say that you are doing this, because I think it's one of those things where in any sort of field, we need independence to do it. I think, like, in some ways, like, it has become this like really random sort of analogy or comparison with Netflix or something, or the sort of streaming services. But the way it started, I still sometimes think without something like as big as it is now, we wouldn't get these sort of random sort of documentaries or random programs. They're willing to take the risk, I still think, on smaller enterprises, smaller things. They do the big stuff, but they also they're investing in smaller, sort of almost indie type things that they wouldn't be done. And you're the same. Like, if you weren't there, how many of these stories wouldn't have been shared? How many of these books wouldn't have been? So the fact that you're doing what you're doing, you're so passionate about it, as I say, you're enabling other people to share their passions or ideas or thoughts as well. So I think first time we met, but thank you for what you're doing, because obviously you are there getting these people there out there, not just for themselves, but then for the reader as well. I think that's the other thing I meant to say earlier is, like, when you said the 3 hats that you wear, it's also about the audience as well. It's about the reader and their experience or what they learn or where their escape to. So I think what you're doing is incredible for yourself, but for those people that we might not have heard of if you weren't doing what you're doing.
Thanks so much, James. That's great
Yeah.
praise to get. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, I think just even I'm going to be looking up the gentleman you told about there, Danny, there, and then the gentleman with the poetry as well, because it's those. Yeah, we would never have known, as you say, it would have been another graveyard of people again, So I think it's wonderful that you do what you do. I want to make sure that people continue to learn about you, follow you, and then potentially even work with you if they've got that idea. So we'll make sure links are in the show notes. But if you want to give a shout out now of where people can connect and follow you online.
That's fantastic. Thanks, James. Yes. My business is my name, orlakellypublishing.com.
Love it. So the link will be there in the show notes, guys. If you want to learn more about what Orla does, if you've got an idea from hopefully this conversation, you'll find that she might be the person to help you out. So follow the links there. Orla, once again, thank you so much for chatting to me today.
Thanks so much, James. Talk to you soon. Take care.
Talk soon.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to What's Important to You. If you enjoyed this episode, follow or subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. And if it resonated, share it with someone who might need it too. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Leave a comment or ask a question, and let's keep the conversation going. I'm James Dean, and I'll be back soon with another real conversation to help you reconnect with what truly matters. Until then, take care and stay curious.